So I thought I'll introduce myself to begin with. I've tried to introduce myself to as many people as possible here. My name's Paul Goddard, and I'm a Master Practitioner of Neurolinguistic Programming. And I'm going to start with a quote that I often do at the end of my past life regression talks, because it's really the idea behind this talk. I won't go into too much detail about NLP, but if anybody wants me to ask that in the question and answer section, then you can certainly do that. But I love this saying, which is, the past is history, the future is mystery, and the present is a gift. Now, quite often when I talk to people, sometimes you have the sort of connection, like, when you go into hairdressers or have interaction with people, you say, so how are you today? Oh, yeah, not too bad, anything special? No, same old, same old. And I think that sometimes the same old, we forget how important that is in our lives. And I remember sharing this quote on my Facebook page, and a lot of people liked it, and they said, yeah, it reminded me. So I thought I'd read it out here. I woke up. I have clothes to wear, I have running water, I have food to eat, life is good, I am thankful. And although people may think, yes, it's the same old, I remember, and I spoke to one lady here about being stranded in the 2007 floods. And I live in Gloucester, and the water was catastrophic. I don't know how many people had that. But like the best things in life, I always took that running water for granted, and it was at that time when it was baby wipes and a little bit of tub of water to try and wash yourself in. Just that normal mundane stuff, how important it actually became with that. And it suddenly realised to me is how I actually forgot that. So I think it's important to enjoy every single moment. One of the stories I don't usually share that often, but I do talk to people about it if they want to know, is how did I get into neurolinguistic programming? Now, the very first time I was ever introduced to NLP was when I was doing my exams, and I was rather nervous about doing my exams at school, and also as well I had trouble retaining the information for it. So I got some Paul McKenna, it was cassettes in those days, so some Paul McKenna cassettes, and I used them, and it made me feel a lot more confident from just using the tools and techniques that were taught to me. It was a very entry-level NLP techniques that were taught, but they did make a difference. But like with most people, I ended up not doing them after a while, and then slowly I started to go back into the old way of thinking. So then many years later, my original idea, my job was wanting to get into the media, into the radio industry and DJing. And I would kind of be held back from really pushing myself to the bigger places by my fear of rejection. So I would kind of build up these mental movies in my mind of talking to somebody on the phone, phoning up, being very nervous, saying, would you be interested in giving me a go? And then somebody saying back to me afterwards, well, what makes me think that I'm going to be interested in having an unknown like you to work for us, possibly with some swearing thrown in as well to the conversation. So I got the Paul McKenna book, Change Your Life in 7 Days, and I started to become a lot more confident. And then, unfortunately, as I was pushing myself further forward, my dad became quite unwell with cancer. Unfortunately, he did actually pass away, but he became interested in using the mind to see if he could help heal himself, because the doctors at one point basically said, well, there's nothing more that we can do. Now, some people, when I say that he was using his mind, some people go, that's wonderful, that's great. Other people say, they don't like it, they feel uneasy and think you should always go down the doctor's route. You should always speak to your GP, but when they said there's nothing more they can do, I think it's good to be able to use your mind to make yourself feel better about it. But it was always very optimistic and very positive, and I think that, and though I said that that's something he wanted to do, you should always respect the beliefs of the route that somebody wants to go down. And he always had a very good light around him. So when he was in hospital, the nurses would go to him and he would sort of say things to make them feel better if they were having boyfriend troubles or various other things, money worries and stuff like that, because people stopped seeing him as being an ill person. They started just seeing him as this really great person to be around. And I think that's one of the thing which is very important when you've had an issue going on in your life, that the people that are affected by it, there's several different reasons behind it, but some of them is that you have what's called your identity level, or maybe you like to call it self-image. And that is that some people, so we're going to use a different example, somebody becomes ill, and maybe they've become paralysed to the illness. Some people now think their identity's changed, and now this person that won't be able to walk anymore, they won't be able to do these things. Whereas somebody who's much more happier with their situation that they're in, they think to themselves, it's all right, you can come in if you want to. Or not. They think to themselves, I'm still me. I've still got my friends around me. I've still got the support of my loving family. Their identity stays the same. It's very healthy. And I also think it's important as well that we really see the beauty within inside yourself. So there's another quote that I like to say here. To be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. And I think that's really important to do. Also as well, when you start to see the beauty within inside yourself, you also then, a good way of getting that connection with people is actually starting to see the beauty in other people. So I'm not always perfect with it, but I like to try and make interactions with somebody. People don't really recognise other people. There has been research done where people have gone into a room and they said, we're going to do some scientific studies. What we've got to do is go through that door. Once they go through that door, that's when the scientific study stops, because what they do, they have somebody, a man with a clipboard, and he says, oh, I've just got to get something for you. He goes under this counter, and then a completely different person with a completely different shirt stands up, and they go, there you go, that's what I want you to fill in. And then I would say about 90% of the people actually don't realise that somebody's actually swapped because they're so much in their own thinking. So I think that's a really good thing to do, is just to be the higher value person and actually trying to have that connection with others.